This has and hasn't been the video you've been waiting for. Let me explain. Hollow Knight Silksong has been my passion project since I uploaded my Steel Heart run for the previous game. I've been attempting Steel Heart and Silksong for a month now, and I've realized how little I remembered about how difficult the game actually was, especially when it came to later stages. Damn it! Again? Oh, ah!
Hello there.
I'm in danger!
Oh. Oh no. Dude, why the fuck? Okay, you game. So, as a palate cleanser and breath of fresh air, I decided to switch gears and try my hand at the Speedrunner achievements. For those of you that don't know, Silksong has 2 Speedrunner achievements tied to game completion. One for completing the game in under 5 hours, and one for completing the game to 100% in under 30 hours. The subject of this video will be tackling the 5-hour speedrun. But raging, isn't Farloom 3 times the size of Hollow Nest, stuffed with overpowered generic enemies, limited access to tools and abilities, and in an environment expressly designed to hate you for simply existing? To that, my observant viewer, you would be correct. Team Cherry wasn't pulling any punches the moment Hornet fell into Moss Grotto, and they sure as hell didn't design the climb up to be easy. All of that being said, this game, much like its predecessor, was substantially easier with a plan. So, with the general gist explained, let's get to it. From the moment Hornet was nearly skewered by her own nail, I had a plan. I was going to take the intended route to Act 2 by ringing the 5 bells scattered throughout Farloom and scale the blasted steps, where I would then face off against the last judge, i.e. the final guardian before the Citadel. With that in mind, I began making my way through the Moss Grotto. This was the calmest area that Farloom had to offer, a nice stroll among the lush green vegetation, until I entered the ruined chapel. Awaiting me inside was the Moss Mother, the first official boss of Silksong. She was, by no stretch of the imagination, a complete pushover. Continuing onward, Hornet found her way into Bone Bottom, Farloom's equivalent of Dirtmouth. Since I wasn't planning on adding any unnecessary time to my playthrough, I blew by the locals and wound up in the Marrow. Unlike the mostly passive creatures within Moss Grotto, the residents of the Marrow went out of their way to harass Hornet. Small creatures like the Skull Scuttler and Carinid only did 1 hit of damage, while the Skull Brute did 2 hits of damage. This was Team Cherry's way of letting the player know that the rules of Hollow Nest need not apply here, and that Farloom was a dangerous place. Even though I knew this going into the speedrun, it still didn't change how annoying it was when BS like this happened. Shortly after, I was forced to interact with Chakra, Farloom's Cornifer. This was the only time I acknowledged her existence throughout the entire run. As soon as her dialogue was finished, I made a beeline for the Silk Spear. With the first Silk skill obtained, I could then release the second boss of Silksong, the Belbies. Defeating the overgrown bone gecko gave access to the first silk heart, which would allow Hornet to generate a single bar of silk over time, access to the game's fast travel system, as well as the first of the 5 bells needed to open the Grand Gate. Exploring deeper into the marrow, I grabbed the first craft medal and the throwing pins. Following the path brought me into the deep docks, where I had to take the long way around in order to unlock Swift Step. Now that I could move faster than walking, I decided to open the pathway towards Forge Daughter, one of the most instrumental vendors throughout this run. It's almost like the game knew I was planning to go this way because I was thrown into a horde of smelt shovelers, smoke rock sifters, and flintstone flyers. Not that they were difficult to deal with. Using the first craft medal, I purchased the Magma Bell, which would negate fire damage from 2 masks of damage to 1. I technically could have purchased the first crafting kit upgrade, but I also knew how bad my parkour skills were in the far fields, where lava was anywhere the developers could fit it. After equipping the Magma Bell and the throwing pins, I was ready to take on Lace.
How dare you!
Upon her defeat, I was able to ring the second of the 5 bells and progress into the aforementioned far fields. To be 100% honest, I hate this portion of the game. It's not because it's mind-numbingly difficult, it's because it goes out of its way to interrupt the feel of natural game progression. Instead of having the ability to start the Flexile Spine's wish without talking to the seamstress, I had to waste time listening to her dialogue, even though I knew what I had to do in order to complete the wish. This quest was no different than the go do this thing because I said so mentality, and while it provided a very helpful upgrade for progression, it was just not fun to do. My reward for unlocking the Drifter's Cloak? A boss fight. A long and irritating boss fight. Look, Fourth Chorus is a phenomenally designed boss, but when I'm trying to go fast, I don't have the patience or the time to drag the fight out. I also don't have the technical prowess to pull off the skip that speedrunners use. Fortunately, the developers added a boulder for reassurance. I don't know if the boulder was always in the arena since Silksong's release, but I'm glad it existed because it ended Fourth Chorus prematurely. Unfortunately, I took too much damage during the fight, and afterwards died while trying to get Silk to heal. Fortunately, I wasn't playing Steel Soul mode, so I just had to run back from the seamstress's bench. After retrieving my silk cocoon, I quickly made my way through the airstream puzzle that launched me into Greymore. While Greymore is one of the larger locations within the game, there wasn't much I could do to access all that it had to offer at this point in time. Fortunately, I could get my hands on the Crest of the Reaper with little to no issue. Sure, its attack speed was slower, and there was a noticeable delay from the time I pushed the attack button. However, the trade-off in attack speed for the ability to reap extra silk from enemies after healing was necessary for me to move forward. Plus, it also gave me the ability to down pogo. This was game-changing, since now I wouldn't have to deal with the god-awful diagonal pogo from the Hunter's Crest. Like every other time I unlocked a substantial ability, the game tossed the boss fight my way. In this case, the Morwing.
We do not care.
With the bloated bug out of my way, I could then pass through Bellheart and enter Shellwood. Following the long and winding path around eventually trapped me in an arena with Sister Splinter. Much like the bosses before her, she was tossed into slow progress. Thankfully, she wasn't a challenge, and defeating her allowed me to unlock the Cling Grip, meaning I could now wall jump. This also meant that I could navigate to Widow's Arena in the upper portion of Bellheart. As a precaution, I made sure to unlock the bench near the arena because I had a tendency to die during this particular fight. With nothing left to lose, I dropped into Widow's domain. I had nothing to be worried about. With Widow now out of the way, I was able to claim the Needle-In ability, a key item for later, furthermore access to the third of the 5 bells needed to open the Grand Gate. Leaving the upper portion of Bellheart, I went to explore Shellwood for the 6 polyp hearts for Greyroot before speaking to Greyroot. I know I made my stance known on the go do this because I said so quest lines, but similarly to the Flexile Spine's wish, the reward for the right of the polyp wish was too beneficial to be ignored, the reward being the polyp pouch. With this pouch equipped, I could lace any red tools in my inventory with a poison that would continuously chip away at an enemy's health. Since I didn't have the time to explore the vast reaches of Farloom for deadlier upgrades and mask shards, having chip damage would tip the odds of success in my favor. After navigating back to Bellheart and speaking with Scrounge and Nailmaster Pliny, I made my way towards the 4th bell located in Greymore. With nothing standing in my way, I pivoted back to Shellwood, completed the mini parkour challenge, and rang the 5th and final bell. All that stood between me and the Citadel was the climb through the blasted steps and the battle with the last judge. The climb went flawlessly. The initial battle with the last judge? Not so much. Thank God I remembered to bench at the top of the climb. As they say, second time's the charm, and with the last judge's explosive finale, I finally made it to the Citadel, as well as Act 2. First and foremost, I knew that I wanted to avoid taking the Underworks route into the Citadel, which meant I had to deal with the scale puzzle, which, looking back on it, wasn't as bad as I remembered it being. I was in the Coral Chambers before I knew it, facing off against the reanimated corpses of the Citadel's most loyal. Most of it was a test of platforming skill with shifting platforms, spikes, and flying pursuit enemies. Overall, it wasn't terrible. I died once on my way towards the Cogwork Dancers, not because it was difficult, but because I was really unlucky and relentlessly bombarded by a Choir Bellbearer and Choir Flyer. And to add insult to injury, I was returned to my last bench all the way back in the Blasted Steps, meaning I had to retrace all of my steps to the upper Coral Chamber. Fortunately, the bench right before the entrance to the High Halls wasn't terribly far from where I died, or the Cogwork Dancers for that matter. So, when I did get back to where I died, I made sure to snag a seat at the bench before entering the Cogwork Dancers arena. I was feeling really good going into this encounter. Unfortunately, the dancers had other plans for me.
Where are you going?
I know they telegraph their moves really, really well. There's no excuse for this particular failure. I just played really, really poorly.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Much like the last judge before, the second time was the charm with the cogwork dancers, which now meant that I could finally start the main questline of Act 2. But first, I had to get my hands on the claw line, located within the underworks. I was avoiding this particular upgrade until I made it to Songclave because I needed the white key to open the White Ward, the Citadel's premier house of horrors. After running through an incinerator, I eventually made my way to a vent system that brought me through pits of lava and conclusively to the claw line, which now meant I had a silk harpoon at my disposal. It wouldn't be Silksong without leading me into a close-quartered combat room, and the final room within the cauldron was no exception. This particular death was precisely why I wanted to put off the underworks as long as humanly possible. Fortunately, the ancestral idol acted as a save point, so I was able to reclaim my silk cocoon pretty quickly and get through the arena with minimal issue. Utilizing the Ventrica station off of the last architect's room, I was able to fast travel back to Songclave, where I made a beeline for the bench near the cogwork core. Instead of taking the obvious route straight from the bench up into the cogwork core to the architect's melody, I instead opted to make my way to the vault keeper's melody. I don't know why I chose this route before I had unlocked the Feydown cloak, but in any case, it was the direction I chose. Before I could reach the sacred cylinder deep within the Whispering Vaults, I had to get there first. So, after a quick detour through the lower cogwork core, I pushed a box aside, fought a small legion of the Haunted, and entered the Whispering Vaults. Following the relatively linear path, I found my way into the upper portion of the Citadel's stage. In order to access the cylinder's location, I had to pass below an elevator on the opposite side of the stage, where I was greeted by this bundle of joy. He did get the better of me twice, but once I relaxed enough to observe the pattern in his chaos, I was finally able to defeat... With the vainglorious bug out of my way, I could follow the forgotten pathway into the deepest part of the Whispering Vaults and finally secure their sacred cylinder. Following the main path of the vaults back to Cardinius, I acquired the melody and took my leave back to the bench at the start of the cogwork core. Now it was time for me to ascend to the architect's melody. The hardest part was getting there. Awaiting me at the top was a simple matching puzzle. Solving it granted me their melody, and with 2/3 of the main questline completed, I decided to take a detour to Mount Fae. Since I wasn't kidnapped in Hunter's March or Greymore and brought to the slab, I had to take the manual route through the upper left side of the Coral Chambers. Fortunately, the pathway that ran through the bottom of the slab and led directly to the base of Mount Fae wasn't blocked off, meaning I could begin my ascent to the Fae Down Cloak. I thought for sure that Mount Fei was going to be a huge struggle for me to overcome, especially considering that I didn't and don't work well under pressure, but surprisingly, I pulled it off without dying. Now equipped with the ability to double jump, I decided to get a few more tools that would come in handy for the third and final melody, the conductor's melody. Firstly, I made a beeline to the quest board in Songclave so I could trigger the Wandering Merchant wish. Then, I located the merchant and purchased the Ascendant's Grip. This yellow tool would allow me to stick to walls rather than slipping and sliding off of them, so I could take a breather and give my fingers a break from button mashing. After that, I made my way back to Bone Bottom and purchased the second craft metal I used in this run. Then I ran all the way through the Marrow, Deep Docks, Far Fields, and finally Greymore to get to the breakable wall above Yarnaby's hut and unlock Pampillo. Normally, I would have fast traveled, but because I didn't unlock any of the fast travel stations across my ascent, I had to leg it. In any case, I now had bombs in my inventory that could be combined with the polyp pouch to make one toxic combination. It was by no means a boss ender, but as I mentioned before, it would help increase my damage output due to my lack of upgrades across the board. With these two upgrades, I felt confident enough to make my way to the entrance of the High Halls. Like the Blasted Steps, Cogwork Core, and Mount Fei before it, High Halls possessed a climb. Interestingly enough, a climb in reverse. When I made it to the save point right before the conductor's melody, I remembered the secret upper room that would permanently eliminate the Claw Maidens. Anyone who's played Silksong knows how irritating these enemies were. And just to spite me, they killed me in the room right before I got rid of them. Luckily, I benched in the room right below where I died, grabbed my silk cocoon, and obliterated the Claw Maidens once and for all. With them out of the way, it was now time to tackle the toughest challenge of this entire run, the High Hall's Gauntlet.
Ah, shit.
Words cannot express how grateful I was to be done with the High Halls. I just wanted to leave. Fortunately, Ballador was quick and to the point. I received the conductor's melody and booked it back to the Cogwork Dancers Arena to play the threefold melody. Even after all of that, I still wasn't out of the woodwork yet. Awaiting me at the top of the lift was Lace, ready for a rematch. I almost beat her on my first try, but got a tad greedy towards the end and got punished for it. Like many of the main boss encounters, I was able to beat Lace on my second try, and with her officially out of the way, the only thing standing between me and my achievement was Grandmother Silk herself. I gotta admit, entering the cradle in the time that I did was a surreal experience. I still had to beat Grandmother Silk, of course, and I didn't think she was going to go down without a fight. I hated being right. In the end, my doubts didn't matter because I had come out on top. Some way, somehow, I persevered. When the final cutscene and the credits had officially stopped rolling, my completion time was 3 hours, 50 minutes, and 19 seconds. I had done it, and done it in way less time than I thought was possible. So, the questions you've probably been asking yourself throughout this entire video are: 1. How many deaths did it take? And 2. Would I recommend this challenge to anyone else? I only died 20 times in total, which is way less than what I had thought the number was going to end up being. As for if I recommend this challenge to anyone else, I'd say it depends on the temperament of the gamer themselves. There's no getting around the fact that Silksong is a difficult game, sometimes punishingly so. If you like having your skills and game knowledge tested, then by all means, go for it. However, if you lack patience for setbacks and time commitment, I wouldn't recommend it. Even if you don't play it for the achievements, Silksong is a phenomenal experience on its own, and one I highly recommend for those that love compelling lore and awe-inspiring world building. With all of that being said, I'm Raging Bull 2008, and thank you so much for watching. See ya!